While we're waiting, perhaps I can have a question for Benno. John Terry's been doing the rounds of the regional council with its 300 plus species of weeds using a grid system. I think it's the nature grid system to match the presence absence. How does that relate to the information you're talking about? Will they produce a merged set, or are you going to have two separate sets?
It's a shame that Julian is not here either, because he's working with the weeds database. First of all, John is not capturing absence, it's all presumed absence. It's only capturing the presence data. So each cell, where is that? Yeah, okay, we'll call it a cell then, as it were. And it's a 10 by 10 kilometer grid. It's a research project. It's got some spin-offs, we believe. And one of the major spin-offs that I can see is that it might identify which species we need a more detailed distribution of as it is expanding all the time. So their data is not able to be integrated in this data set as far as we can see.
Will it be available, Shirley, to access into the bigger system somewhere?
I don't know about it, I'm afraid.
Okay, yeah. I can understand big organisations.
There's been a huge amount of discussion about that.
I'm sure they'll be made available. I'm sure for the people, and I'm sure they'll tell the people that contribute to it in the meetings. He's coming next week to Hawke's Bay, so I'll be there. And I'm sure that they'll make a shape file of it in a grid cell, and I'm sure that they'll make that available. It's easy to make available. There'll be small data sets, big cells as rasters. So yeah, I don't see any problem with that. Yeah.
One thing about those weed distributions, I think John Terry requested data from NIPS. I don't recall if it was only public domain data or restricted data. So it's just something to be aware of, that you can't pass on that restricted data, so you wouldn't be able to include that in anything that was published. But
and
he should be aware of that, but
yeah.
It's just a comment.
Maybe you make send an email to make sure.
Yeah, I can't recall what it is.
How does that tie in with the other databases as well, like New Zealand Biodiversity, things like that? Because that's got a whole lot of species-specific information in it.
Just in ZBO. We're in the unfortunate situation that everybody's creating separate databases. Yeah. So while we're the separate from ZBO.
And that database is it's like a kind of backyard. I saw something, I put it in because they copied it from Sweden and that worked really well. But the data doesn't get verified. And
there are different levels of verification in that data.
Yeah. Is there?
Yes,
and there is a lot of data.
Species?
There's a lot of data in there that's been used by scientists. There's also a lot of data that's been used by the public, and there is a level of what data as to how reliable it is. And the thing with public data, when public or entering data, is more and more records get entered in there. The work on the quantity gives you a better data quality because the erroneous records become very obvious.
Right, that would just be a function of collaboration between the data sets. Talking about collaboration with communities, collaboration with regional councils. I don't see any reason why that would affect. Why is that the output maps? Because you knew what you were underlying
For some species, it's really useful to put that in. For other species who are hard to distinguish, it'll be more difficult to put them in a public database without actually species validation. So how we can share that information and where the benefits for you guys are of having this data set at hand and finding out in detail that so that we can basically tailor that, and in return, you guys can add on to this so that over time the quality of that data on private land and DoC land is getting better and better all the time.
Because certainly we have good records and maps and points and good quality data basically for some species.
And we know, we first need to find a vehicle. We've got the raw data now. Now we need to find out what regional councils, what format they have that data.
Yeah.
If they have it as rasters, for example, then okay, then we probably have to move into a different format for this data. Yeah. So there's a bit of investigation to be done before before we can actually integrate or aggregate that information.
I'd just like to raise an issue that could become a problem. With all these metadatabases becoming more publicly accessible, we have to start thinking about if we record stuff on private property, the access rights to that sort of detail. And some people, might be some problems around privacy issues and things like that. And how are we going to deal with that?
It probably has to be dealt with on a scale that you know it's within the locality. You can't pinpoint where it is within that locality.
And there's some threatened species that I'm sure DoC wouldn't like the public to know where they are and that type of stuff.
Well, that's partly why, with the Bioweb data that's available on the internet at the moment, some of it is not there because of that very reason. And the database, the inventory and monitoring project metadata, there's some ways there that you can withhold certain kinds of information, and you don't see the public on the web inquiry don't see the exact location of the project, even though that is in the database.
Just something like that.
Yep.
Kind of fuzzy.
Yep.
You mentioned there were 19, was there native species as well? Were they
19 weed species?
No, there was some native species as well, you said?
Yep.
Are those plants or animals or?
Say again?
Plants or animals?
It's a whole range.
Yeah, so there's nearly 100 native species that we've done, and they were done with the provider sites process, so that's the data from the one where they mapped based on where there were records of species and LCDV2 or whatever it was, they mapped species that way, and that's combined with Benno's stuff, which is this mapping, to produce that vital sites where they went to sites over New Zealand.
Is it the vital sites that Lake has been working on?
Thank you, Hamilton.
Yeah.